What's up, guys and gals? It's the Tyrant here, and welcome back to my Halo 5 Guardians Mythic Difficulty walkthrough. That's legendary, all skulls on, no saves, no deaths, and scoring applied. Today we're doing one of the hardest missions in the game, Mission 12, Battle of Sunaion. Now, starting out, you've got a bunch of grunts and jackals charging your location. Use that battle rifle to help clear out some of these enemies. We're going to be skipping a lot of this first area, but clearing out some of these bad guys right here does make things significantly easier. So when we're over here to the far right side, we're going to climb up on this little pillar right here and jump boost across to this little gap. Now you're going to want to jump up here and try to ground pound through that little gap right there. Finding the exact spot where you can actually get through it can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes you can do it on the first try. Sometimes it might take you a little while. So we managed to finally get through. We just sort of slipped through right there. Go ahead and run along this little border right here. And when you get to the end, you're going to want to jump, turn, stabilize, and boost over to this ledge. You might need to clamber there. Do not ground pound, otherwise you'll fall into the sea. Go ahead and run through this door, and this is the first major anti-air gun right here. Usually there's a lot of storm jackals and grunts and stuff. They haven't spawned yet. But what we're going to do is ground pound through this little sewer grate right here, or whatever it is, and just run right through, pound right through there. Little Spartan thrust, and then run all the way up here, and there's a little crate with fuel rod guns over here. Pick one up. If you want to, you can let one of your allies pick another one up. It's not necessary. They're not really going to need it. And then we're going to run all the way back to the beginning. Now at this point, you've heard all the Arbiter, saying his lines, his dialogue. Usually when we run back to where the mission started, there's going to be grunts at the door. Sometimes they won't have spawned yet. Sometimes they will. It just depends. So they've already spawned and gone through. You're going to want to go ahead and get to the door. Usually Buck will say something like, how do we know the Arbiter's plan will work? And that's when you know you've loaded the enemies for the next area. You'll need to be able to do this in order to progress. Otherwise, the anti-air guns are invincible. So now we're running back through here. Now this place is completely wide open. By the way, there's a fuel rod gun in the back corner right there if you want to use it. Jump up here, quickly run past the jackals. There's an elite here too. Be careful of him. And then another elite will fall down, or will rain down from one of these drop pods. He's got a sword. You can usually backsmack him, but sometimes when he drops, he'll be like right at you. But he's scripted to keep going, so don't worry too much about him. He won't pursue you. And then we're going to jump up here. Make sure your allies are out of the way so we don't get grenade spam. Jump up here and carefully aim the fuel rod gun to hit the power supply to the anti-air gun. Now, it only takes 3 fuel rod rounds to hit the anti-air gun or destroy it, but what we want to do is use as little as possible and save it for the next area. You can hide back here from that dropship if you want to, so you don't have to worry about getting concussion rifled or bombarded by that ship's weaponry. Wait for that door to open. There's going to be one elite with a fuel rod gun and a few grunts. If you need shields, you can bash one of those grunts, but otherwise just keep on going. We're going to get to the area with the 3 anti-air guns, run straight up here, past the storm jackals, right up here, get your battle rifle ready, and usually there's 3 grunts that are hiding up here. Also, make sure you signal your allies to join you, otherwise they'll sort of just start wandering around and fighting enemies that they're not really equipped to fight. Usually I like to take out the first 2 grunts up here and then save the 3rd for getting my shields back. Sometimes those grunts won't spawn. Just sort of an FYI there. So you're going to have a few grunts and a couple of jackals that are going to jump up on that ledge, but beforehand, go ahead and use the fuel rod gun to take out that first anti-air gun. Sometimes you need to do that to trigger these guys over here. So there's usually 3 or 4 grunts that'll jump up there, followed by a pair of jackals. Be aware, sometimes the grunts will jump up on your side. It's rare, but it does happen. Just remember to pay attention very closely just to be sure. Keep your ears open. Usually you can tell if they do that. Now you'll see a little puff of smoke at the bottom when one of the enemies is about to jump up. And it seems like the jackals give off a slightly more vibrant puff of smoke, so just keep that in mind. Once these guys are down, usually the jackals, after the jackals, you don't have to worry about anything else jumping up there. Just be mindful that sometimes a grunt might do that. You don't want your allies going up there either. Otherwise, the enemies won't jump up there and they'll take you off guard later on in the battle. So usually what I like to do is I'll take out the first 2 guns myself, and I'll let my allies take out the 3rd. Meanwhile, I'll use the remainder of my fuel rod gun rounds on this shade turret down here, get that knocked out of the way fairly quickly. And as for the plasma cannon just to the left of it, usually I like to keep that operational because it's typically manned by warrior elites, and it's very easy to take them out when they're on the turret. So when you're ready, go ahead. If you want to, you can go ahead and grab the plasma caster to finish off the shade turret. Sometimes you need to, sometimes you don't. Hoping my allies don't get in the way here. You won't really need the plasma caster for anything else, so don't worry about it. So once the shade turret is down, that's one less stream of fire coming to your location. But again, try not to destroy the plasma turret that's further there, over there on the left, and try to make sure your allies don't do it either. At this point, you're going to start taking out the grunts. You can do it. You can either start with the grunts or the elite. Personally, I like to do the elite first if my allies haven't already destroyed the turret. That's one less thing you need to worry about, but you need to count the enemies that you're killing here. Usually between 3 to 5 enemies that you kill, an elite warrior and a few of his grunt buddies will spawn in your tower towards the back. Now, if you can catch them before they wander downstairs, you can take out their entire platoon very easily. If you don't do that, then they're going to occasionally meander up to your location. They'll be more aggressive about coming up to your floor. So I like checking back here just to be on the safe side. There they are. So go for the elite first. They're scripted to walk downstairs. Even if you start attacking them, they'll simply just turn around and start shooting back at you. But again, if you let them get away, they're going to start trying to come up to your location, so you don't want that. With the grunts especially, they'll usually jetpack up to your ledge right here and take you off guard with a plasma grenade. At this point, you're just slowly taking out enemies. If you can get an elite on the plasma turret, that's great. Otherwise, just focus on the grunts, and usually this will get your phantom allies, the Swords of Sanghelios, to finally show up. And once they do, you can take the elevator down to the Undercity. Now, just to sort of recap from the beginning of the level, the whole point in doing that skip, ground pounding through the sewer and all that stuff, or the underpass or whatever it is simply so that you have a quick way of getting past that area. You're not actually skipping the area per se. You're just giving yourself an easier way to run past all those enemies. Otherwise, you'd be dealing with a bunch of elites, a bunch of storm jackals, a few jackal rangers, and a grunt with a fuel rod gun. So that basically doing all that cool little skip at the beginning gets you to this area a lot quicker. And so that's what we're trying to do here, just basically make this mission as easy as possible. So again, we're just taking out as many grunts as we can. Once you've taken out enough enemies, the Swords of Sanghelios will show up. Now, when I think it's Maki announces that she's on her way, that's when you want to grab a needler and jump to the other tower, because we're going to go after the 2 special obsoletes with energy swords.
Take that position.
Now, this infinite ammo crate here works for both carbine and needler ammo, so just keep that in mind. We will be using the needler here in just a couple of minutes, as soon as those phantoms start to show up. If you wait too long after the phantoms announce their arrival, the special obsoletes either disappear or they try to engage the Swords of Sanghelios, so you won't get that sword. The sword's important for the next area. So again, we're just taking these out slowly. I got to get my allies to take out that cannon. Completely forgot it was there. And it looks like, did a grunt wander up here? Okay, I saw a plasma grenade somewhere. Probably one from below. Oh, nope, there he is, getting a little aggressive. All right. So your allies are usually pretty good about downing at least one of those anti-air guns. They're not as tough as they look. So the Arbiter's sitting there telling us, okay, make sure you've got enough enemies. That's fine, but again, once Maki announces that she's going to show up, and there she is, all we got to do is use the needler, and we're going to go ahead and aim. Well, in this case, since I couldn't find a needler around, I just used the plasma caster, but there should be needler ammo somewhere. Basically, you just want to make sure your allies are dealing with the special obsoletes. If you don't have the ammo for it, just make sure your allies are there with you. You only need 1 sword. And there are 2 of them available, so just keep that in mind. First, I thought that was a special obsolete that decided to cloak himself. It looks like it was a Swords of Sanghelios guy, and he was not happy that I hit him in the back, but that's okay. Anyway, there's more needler ammo down here if you can't find any from down grunts, simply because they despawned. The trash system took care of them, so they should still be up here. We're going to go ahead and see if we can take out this guy. The plasma caster is not your best bet to use, but it's an alternative in case that's all you have available to you. So now that we have the sword, it looks like there was another special obsolete right there, so I'm just going to make sure we have full carbine ammo. Not only loaded in the weapon, but you have max carbine ammo in reserve as well. Jump back up on this tower right here, and we're going to jump right to the platform, hit the elevator. It is possible for you to get hit here from one of the elites that's surviving or anything like that, so just be aware of your surroundings. So going down here, you want a full carbine and an energy sword. The energy sword is so that we can speed run the Undercity, or at least the first part of it. Having the sword means you can run 10% faster, and this is really going to help us out a lot. So this is sort of a mix between speed running and slow and steady. We're going to speed run through the first section of the Undercity and then take the second part nice and slow. And I'll discuss the pros and cons with you in just a second. But as soon as the door opens, we're going to go ahead. You can practice your slide jump here. Gets you from point A to point B pretty fast. Jump over to this platform right here and dash through the door. Oh, and I missed. There we go. And then you're going to jump on this platform right here, then jump up on this one, avoid the Ranger Elite, keep going, go around. Then my advice is to slide and jump right past here, go over here, and you're going to want to jump up on this ledge over here. Be careful because there is a plasma cannon off screen that can take you out, so you want to be as quick as possible. More times than not, you can avoid that plasma cannon. Then jump up here, right through the door, dash as quickly as you can to avoid those jackals. Sometimes there's jackals right here too. And here you're safe. The Covenant will not pursue you here with the exception of possibly a few suicide grunts. So listen for that hiss because they might come through the door. If they do, you want to be ready. But other than them, you're fine. Now, you're going to want to head and trade your sword out for the plasma pistol that's in that crate. You should have plenty of ammo. And there's extra carbine ammo right there too from one loose gun that's just laying around. Now, the downside of doing this, as opposed to doing it slow and steady, is there's an infinite ammo crate back there that you could utilize for this area. But since we're not going back to that area and it's full of Covenant because they don't despawn, we can't use that crate. Now, fortunately, as long as you're not overly reckless with your shots, you should have more than enough ammo to deal with the enemies in this area. So again, I'm just keeping careful watch to make sure that there are no suicide grunts coming to the door. Don't want to be taken off guard. My advice to you is don't be aggressive with your attacks in this particular area unless you have 2 or more of your allies available to you. It's very common for your allies to just simply fall off the platforms here or get blasted off via grenades. So moving up, you've got a few grunts to take out right here, and there's also a Ranger Elite. Try to make that Ranger Elite a top priority if you can. They're very weak shielded, so don't worry too much. I'm going to see he's got a plasma caster, so we definitely want to take him out as quickly as possible. He got lucky there and was able to get back because my shooting is terrible, unfortunately. But that's what these guides for. They're not meant for professionals. They're meant for just regular, everyday people like myself. So there are a few jackals over here too. You don't want your allies interfering because it's really easy to take these guys out. If you get them at the right angle, a lot of times they'll just simply lower their shield and so you can get a quick dome shot in. There's about 4 jackals, I think. And there's another squad of grunts over there on the left-hand side that'll approach from the back and usually sit at that platform that's right behind this column. There's also 2 warrior elites and what looks like a storm elite manning a turret at the other end. There should also be another ranger elite as well. So just be aware of those guys. The warrior elites are the tough ones. I'm not sure specifically if there is if it's a warrior elite or a storm elite on the turret. I've never gotten close enough on Mythic Difficulty to find out, and my eyesight is terrible because I'm blind in one eye. So I'm not entirely sure based on its color scheme what it is, but I'm pretty sure it's a storm elite, but I could be wrong. Also be aware that there is a plasma cannon up on that far upper right platform, and a lot of times the ranger elite will man that turret. Sometimes it'll be a grunt, but just be aware that it's there. So again, we're just going to take these guys out nice and slow. This area right here has 2 waves of enemies. The first wave has exactly what I've told you about before. It's got half a dozen grunts, a couple of warrior elites. It's got a couple of ranger elites, and that's about it. Of course, it's also got that one elite down at the turret. It's got some jackals in the back. Here's the thing. if you cross that threshold, there's a little, see where the lights are on the lower, on the platform right there on the walkway. If you cross that threshold, wave 2 will spawn. Now wave 2, while it doesn't have as many enemies, is extremely dangerous because it contains 1 Jackal Sniper and 1 Special Ops Elite, and that Special Ops Elite is very aggressive. He will follow you all over the Undercity. So those are the 2 guys you want to be careful about the most. You don't want to trigger them until you've taken out the enemies from this wave. Otherwise, dealing with the Jackal Sniper and the Special Ops Elite is going to be a pain in the butt. So again, we're just taking our time here, waiting for this guy to stop firing. He's pulling a Halo 2 on us, basically. I can't tell if that's a grunt or an elite. I think it's a grunt, so we're going to go ahead and just down him right there. I don't know what happened to that Ranger elite. He may have just fallen off the platform. Occasionally, enemies will go behind corners and simply just disappear. Not really sure what the deal is there. So again, be careful about this warrior elite. Occasionally, this guy gets really, really aggressive and will just charge your location. Just be aware. Keep the plasma coming. Make sure that you pepper his shields really good. And sometimes Vale will chime in as well, since she has a plasma pistol by default. And then take him out as quickly as possible. There's another warrior elite a little bit further up ahead, so keep an eye on him as well. Again, do not cross that threshold. That is the one thing you don't want to do until you've made sure that all of your elite, all of the other enemies in this area are down for the count. Now, usually when you start peppering this guy at the far end, the other warrior elite will eventually start attacking you. So just keep your eye out for him as well. If you're still waiting for him, there's some jackals on the other end. You can use that opportunity just to take a couple of those guys out. Usually once most of this wave is done and dealt with, I'll go ahead and refill my carbine. Again, you should have more than enough ammo here, but once you've dealt with these 2 waves, there is another infinite ammo crate on the same platform where there's a plasma turret. It's just you don't want to approach that with a ton of enemies in the area, so just keep that in mind. It's also easy to get shot in midair when you're trying to jump from one platform to the other, so I would definitely avoid doing that. Here I'm just trying to see where all the other elites are. He's okay, there he is. He's sort of hiding out right there, just sort of spacing himself out. Paint him as a target paint him, if you will, and make sure that your allies are focusing on him completely. If you get his shields down, a lot of times your allies will be able to finish him off, even if he runs for cover. So keep the pressure on. It looks like his shields just popped. He is one lucky guy because he simply just stepped back behind cover, and my allies shoot like stormtroopers in this mission. I don't know what the deal is, and you'll see in just a couple of minutes when I get to the hunters, but I feel like their medication somehow ran out in the course of this mission because they just seem to do the most bizarre things, unfortunately. So let's see. All right, so the second warrior elite is down for the count. I think one of my allies tried to grenade me right there. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, they just do the weirdest things in this mission. I've been shot by him. I've been grenaded by him. I've seen him jump off the platform. I guess they couldn't take it anymore. But yeah, so don't rely on them too much, unfortunately. Again, I've seen bizarre behavior throughout the game, but on this particular mission, it really just runs you through. I don't know what the deal is with them here. Maybe there's too many scripted events that happen. But anyway, so be aware you do have a couple of Jackal Rangers here, or at least one that I'm aware of. So make sure you take him out too. And if he does manage to get to that platform, just send your allies over there to take care of him. You don't want to be shot in midair. And especially when you're this late into the mission. We're about halfway through at this point, or maybe 2/3 of the way through. So again, I'm just taking my time here, seeing if there's anything left that I need to worry about. So far, everything looks like it's okay. I'm just trying to keep my eye out for the Ranger Elite. Again, he may have just simply jumped off the platform. I'm not entirely sure, but don't assume anything, because especially since he's got a plasma caster. So it looks like he's probably down for the count. I don't see him anywhere else, so go ahead and park your allies right about here. We're going to trigger the next wave. The reason why we want them to be further up is because if we get shot by the Jackal Sniper, your allies are at least close enough that they can revive you, at least if they're paying attention. So, alright, it looks like right now we just need to wait for our other allies to respawn. Again, I've had situations before where they'll spawn and they won't do anything. They'll just stand around. They won't listen to your commands. Sometimes they'll just walk right off a platform into the ocean. So I'm not really sure what the deal is with that. But now that we've got 2 of them, I'm pretty confident. So run past here, and this should be enough to trigger wave 2. But be mindful of where that Jackal sniper is. He's going to be your top priority, with the special obsolete being next up. So there's the Jackal sniper right there. He went down pretty easily. So now we just need to keep our eyes open for that special obsolete. He'll be charging down the walkway. And again, if you try to weasel your way out of it, if you try to skip this area, he will follow you all the way to the hunters. So there's the special obsolete. He is a grenade chucking machine. Fortunately, his shields are about somewhere between a warrior and a ranger, so they're not overly strong, but they're not super weak either. With this guy down, you're in pretty good shape. Keep an eye on where he drops his energy sword, because you're going to want to use that when you go up against the hunters. So again, we're just progressing forward a little bit. There's a Ranger Jackal right there, taking him out. Good. Okay, so that's the second Ranger Jackal. We should be in pretty good shape. If you want to, you can go ahead and refill your carbine, because up ahead you're going to have a few grunts, a few shielded jackals, and another warrior elite that's going to be hiding right around the corner. There's a few things you can do here. Obviously, you can get your allies to take the beam rifles, but really they're not going to use them just because it's close range combat. So you might as well just have them pick up plasma pistols or needlers if you're going to rearm them with anything at all. So get your allies to jump up here first. And the elite's usually hiding around the corner. Now, just like with the Ranger elite, I've seen this warrior just sometimes duck behind a corner and then never come out. I'm not really sure what the deal is there. Maybe he just falls into the ocean. You can tell when they die because the score counter will go up, but sometimes I won't even see that happen. So I'm not exactly sure what causes that, but either way, it's okay. But make sure your allies are trained on this warrior elite. I'm sort of edging out because just like with the special obsolete, he is a grenade chucking machine. But he seems to be a little bit coy here, so I'm sending my allies out right now to see if they can get his attention. It doesn't seem to be working. Nothing's drawing. Okay, there he is. Okay, so he was hiding on the other side. It looks like that's okay. Again, make sure your allies are on it. If your allies get taken out, just retreat back. Wait for them to respawn, and you should be fine. Otherwise, get out your plasma pistol and help them out. Do whatever you can. Okay, so I'm not seeing him. There he is. Alright, so again, just watch out for his grenades. If he throws one, just dash one way or the other, and he's gone. He's out. Perfect. Okay, so at this point, you've got a couple more platforms up ahead. Usually they'll contain both grunts and jackals, shielded jackals, so not a lot to worry about here. This is a good time to pick up the energy sword. If you feel like you need to replenish your carbine ammo, go ahead, but there is an infinite ammo carbine crate where the hunters are located as well, so you don't really need to worry about that at the moment. So we're just going to slowly take these guys out right here, and when there are no enemies left, go ahead and charge the hunter location as fast as you can. Get that energy sword out and be ready. So it looks like all the enemies are down. Just do a quick little jump to make sure, and you want to approach at least one of the hunters and just start mashing at his back with the energy sword. 4 hits should do the trick. If you miss, get out of there as fast as you can. Alright, so we managed to take out one hunter. On Legendary, I think it takes only maybe 2 or 3 hits, but on Mythic, it takes a little bit more than that. Once one is down, quickly get over here as quickly as possible, or if it's not working and you're not able to take out the hunter fast enough, again, get over here as quickly as you possibly can. Now, unfortunately, this is one of the areas in the game that does tend to take a little bit of time. It's a pain in the butt right here, but it's okay. So there are 2 fuel rod guns. Once your allies respawn, because a lot of times, again, they'll just walk off of platforms, or they'll get hit by a fuel rod gun and get launched off a platform. Once your allies are back, go ahead and have them, at least 2 of them, take the fuel rod guns from the crate. Now, you can use the fuel rod gun yourself, but keep in mind that when it's in the hands of your allies, it has infinite ammo. So go ahead and make sure they're back here. It's good to try to keep your allies alive. Now, I've noticed in this area in particular, your allies seem to glitch, and a lot of times they'll run to the door and they'll just keep running at the door as if it's open. Again, I don't know if it's because there's a scripted event that happens there or what the deal is, but a lot of times your allies just do not want to pay attention here. So this is a bit of a coin toss. That's the only logical reason I can think of to actually take the fuel rod gun yourself. But again, I wouldn't do that. Granted, there's a lot of ammo there. You could potentially use that to take out the hunter, but remember the hunters in this mission have a lot of health. Now on the opposite platform, there's also a plasma caster, which you can use that, but be aware that you're better off shooting at the hunter's feet, not at the hunter directly, because a lot of times they'll bat the caster round away, and so it won't really do anything. So you could do that as a secondary option. Also on that opposite platform, there is an ammo station where you can continuously refill your carbine as much as you want to. I would not recommend sprinting across the platform just because that can give you kind of a hard time. One other option you can use for this area is instead of coming to this platform, go to the other one and just direct your allies to the fuel rod gun. That is certainly an option. It just seems to be a little bit more open in that other area. The nice thing about the size of this particular area right here, this particular platform, is it's easier to dodge the hunters and get out of the way. Occasionally the hunters will wander up to this platform, and yes, they can go all the way around, but typically they don't. Typically they'll retreat rather than take the chances of going around a corner that they don't understand. So it looks like both my allies are firing away. I want to make sure that my allies stay alive as long as possible, making sure that the hunter does not see me, because that would be tough. I would not want that to happen. And so hopefully it won't take too much here. Just again, it really depends on how cooperative your allies are. Sometimes they'll ignore using the fuel rod gun and just start chucking grenades. That can work too, to a point. Again, as long as they're not just running at the door, anything's an improvement over that, so I'll take it. Okay, so the hunter's definitely damaged at this point. I'm keeping an eye on his back armor to see when it falls off. Once it does, if you want to take some shots with the carbine, you can certainly do that. I've actually been able to take down a hunter on Mythic with the carbine before. It just takes a lot of hits. So it looks like, yeah, I don't know if all my allies are down except for the one, but it looks like that might be a possibility at this point. Okay, we have one ally left, and well, never mind. I think he just got launched off a cliff. So that does happen. This is a frustrating area to be sure, but it's still doable as long as you have patience. You don't want to run out there and get ultra aggressive just because you want to get through it quicker. Okay, so we do have an ally left. Or we did for a second. Alright, so it looks like it's just me and the hunter. So I have to wait for my allies to respawn, and they're going to chuck a bunch of grenades at the hunter to hopefully take him down. Again, this part becomes very tedious just simply because you do technically have the weapons for it, but the hunters just have an extreme amount of health on Mythic Difficulty. And so when this happens, in combination to the fact that they have their new homing weapon as a secondary device, it becomes very, very tedious. You also have to remember that with the skulls on, your shields don't recharge, and so you're always weak, you're always vulnerable. If they manage to hit you with a full clip of their secondary weapon, you will go down. And of course, if you don't have any allies to bring you back, then you're not going to be able to finish the mission. Alright, so again, we're just waiting for our allies to respawn. This could take a little bit of time. I forget if it's 60 or 90 seconds here. But once they do, you will know, because yep, they'll say, "On my way, Locke," or something like that. They'll respond to you, even though you can't actually see where you're leading them, or you can't see their arrows because of the blind skull. So again, waiting for all my allies to get back here, not just a couple of them. And once they're back, we should be able to finish this off. Hopefully they'll chuck a bunch of grenades. I'll use my carbine to help distract them. And then we should be in pretty good shape. This is, again, probably the most tedious part of the mission, is waiting for your allies to respawn. Otherwise, it's very difficult to get through this. Fortunately, they have the ammo to take down the hunter. And fortunately, there's only one left, so that's a definite plus there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and highlight him real quick to get our allies on the move. Hopefully they won't start running into the wall or jumping off of platforms. Also beware of that explosive. It already went off earlier, the big crate right there. If you're anywhere near it, it'll take you out, so just be aware of that. Hopefully see, Again, they sort of glitch in this area. They'll run into walls. They'll run into that crate sometimes. It's really weird the way they behave. But fortunately, it looks like all of our allies are still alive at the moment. But that hunter is fairly weak. Okay. Should not be much more left. Whoa! Okay. Almost had me there. You can always feel free to chuck some grenades yourself. Just be aware that the hunters tend to bat them away. Oh, and this guy's getting a little aggressive. Okay. Fortunately, we can always back up. Again, typically he won't go all the way around. He likes to be a little bit more cautious. So I'm seeing if I can get anything in there before my allies get taken out completely. Alright, so once again it looks like we have to wait for my guys to... Oh, nope, we still have more left. Oh, whew. Take that position. Not always easy to tell. But your allies are going to be a big help here. Basically, this sort of brings me back to blue team where we used our allies to take out the 2 hunters while we pretty much didn't do a lot. Here, it's pretty much the same thing unless you want to grab the fuel rod guns yourself. But the only problem with that is once you're out of ammo, you don't really have any way to deal with the hunters. So it's still better to have your allies use them, even if your allies can be complete morons sometimes. Alright, so we're almost there. I don't know why she's using the plasma pistol. She just basically took out her only protection with that energy shield right there. Terrible aim sometimes. I've noticed with the plasma pistols, they just tend to not be very good at them, whether we're talking about Fireteam Osiris or if we're talking about Blue Team. See, like, she almost shot me. It looks like she overcharged it and was like trying to figure out which direction she wanted to shoot it. It was really weird. But it looks like the hunter should be almost down at this point. So hopefully just a couple of more grenades and that should do the trick. You spend about, I'd say, almost a third of the mission in this location, and then you spend even more time in the next one. So I'm trying to see if I can get the hunter's attention so he quits trying to take out my allies. And if the hunter is... Okay. Fortunately, one of my allies is still alive. Ooh! Okay, smackdown. I don't know if I want to help her now. Let's see. The hunter's retreated enough. Okay, good. Wow, he just came out of nowhere and was like, nope. Bam! But again, when you're down to one ally, or when you only have a couple left, just be careful, because that ally is also the one that'll recharge you. But it looks like his back armor's off at this point, so I can probably do a fair amount of damage to him myself. And this is why you want to make sure you have an ally alive, because it's very easy to be taken down by the hunter's secondary weapon. Even though his primary fuel rod blast is fairly easy to dodge most of the time, be aware though that if you take one of those to the face, you cannot be revived by your allies. Okay, he's almost down, almost down. Back is to me, so I should be able to do a fair amount of damage. And he just did a complete 180. He's like, no, I see you there. Okay, so again, all right, there we go. See, you can take him down with the carbine. All right, so from here, those doors will open. There's going to be 4 grunts that are inside. I get a little wussy at this point just because I'm so far into the mission. So a lot of times I'll just let my allies have at it. You don't need them to recharge your shields because you'll get a free recharge in the next area. If you want to, you can take the plasma caster from here. There's another one on the way to the final battle though, so that's completely up to you. I wouldn't usually let your allies take one of these simply because they won't use it properly. Usually they'll cause you more good than harm, or more harm than good. So just make sure you're aware of that. So now it's time to get to the final area. And this part, honestly, was the trickiest part of the whole mission for me. Once I was able to get the triple cannon area down, it became all about this. And I'll explain why in just a second. But in terms of getting to this next area, first we need to discuss that you do get a free shield recharge because there are some Covenant that have been just completely wiped out. I'm guessing by the Guardian, maybe by the Swords of St. Helios. Not completely sure. But at this point, you know, you can hear the Arbiter, he's having some trouble, and so we want to help him out, but we want him to help us out too. So as soon as these doors open right here, we're going to go ahead and just run right through. And there's an elite that's sort of crawling around. You can ground pound and hit him, and that'll recharge your shields. You can just go ahead and take him out. There's a grunt that'll sort of explode, but it won't hurt you, so don't worry about that. As long as you're not too close anyway. And just keep going. You're going to have a couple of scripted events happen. You can actually avoid the scripted events if you want to, but they look pretty cool. And so, personally, I just want to watch it happen. I think that was a Swords of Helios Phantom right there. So, sorry guys. If you keep going, there's a place where the walkway collapses. Not this part right here. That doesn't really collapse. It just goes down a little bit. But this one part, you can actually sidestep so you don't go through the cutscene or the QuickTime event. But it doesn't matter either way. So go ahead and pull yourself up. You're going to go ahead and jump to this small area right here on the bottom. Keep going, and you're going to see some crawlers appear, and they're going to be taking out a grunt. Again, I usually just send my allies in there because I want to go into this final area with full shields. Now, if you just saw, there's another plasma caster back there, so if you didn't grab the first one, you can grab that one if you want to. Really, whether or not you use the plasma caster in this last area is up to you. I've seen some of my colleagues use it to try to sort of thin the herd with the Promethean soldiers, but with the method I use here, you're almost better off using the suppressor instead. So you're going to jump up here. Arbiter is going to be in the process of assassinating a knight because he is complete badass. And if you want to go up, you have two choices. You can go to this back area right here, or you can use that lift and get to that platform up top. Your main priority when you first get to this area is dealing with the 3 watchers that'll appear. Now, 2 of them are going to be sort of floating back and forth between the back of the area and the combat zone. The third one is usually going to be outright helping the soldiers in the area. So you want to take these guys out first. The watchers usually appear from the back. When you see one, make sure you highlight it so that your allies know to make that a priority. Now, you need to be aware that when you're on the platform up here, if you go down for any reason, if you go into armor lock, your allies will not jump up here to save you. And that's been one of the biggest pet peeves I've had with this area, because on one hand, you have this, you see where that building is over there just across from me? That's an area that has constant spawning crawlers. Usually, every time you take one out, or you take out all the crawlers that spawn in with a wave, 2 to 3 more will spawn in that exact area. And they will continue to do that throughout the entire battle, even once the Warden finally spawns in. And that was a big problem for me because obviously if you're concentrating on the Warden, you can't always look beside you. And so that's a big issue. And so my main concern came to be, okay, well, is there any way to deload them or something like that so that I can concentrate fully on the Warden? And there is a way. I finally figured it out. I'm surprised that I haven't heard anyone else do this yet. Maybe they have, and I just, I wasn't able to see it. But, I've talked to speedrunners. I've talked to other folks in the Mythic community, and no one seems to know this yet. So congratulations, you're the first to actually have the science behind this. If you jump to the tower closest to where the Warden spawns, and this is the same tower that has an incineration cannon along with the fuel rod gun crate, if you jump to that tower, then for whatever reason, the crawlers stop spawning here. Even if you decide to retreat back to this area, they stop spawning completely. I think that's the game's way, or at least having them continuously respawn is the game's way of trying to force you to progress further down this area right here. But obviously it's a problem. Now the crawlers typically, even if you're in a crouch position, won't jump up there to get you, but sometimes they go up there not to necessarily hunt you, but to gain the high ground over your allies. And I've had that happen 3 times where I was in the process of dealing with the Warden and almost done with the mission, only to be taken out by a crawler that I had no idea had jumped up behind me. Also, it should be noted that when you are attacking the Warden, you're giving your position away. So that's another reason why you don't want these crawlers there. But see, they just spawned in right there. And if you don't move forward, then they'll continue to spawn in that location throughout the entire duration of the battle. There's no set limit. So in terms of actually getting through this area, this is, again, sort of a gray area. You have to kill a certain number of Prometheans to get the Warden to spawn in. Now, the way this works is once you've downed a certain number of them, and it doesn't seem to be that anyone really knows the exact count or even what Prometheans you need to destroy. But once you're down to a certain number of them, you'll have 2 final waves that include Promethean soldiers that spawn in before the Warden himself actually shows up. Now, it seems like if you despawn the crawlers, or at least prevent them from spawning anymore, that helps move the mission along significantly. So I don't think the number of crawlers you down, are really a factor here.
Take that position.
So I'm waiting for this area to calm down a little bit. Usually there's a couple of soldiers that are just outright, in this area, in your face, and we want to eliminate them before we move to the next area. But if it becomes too problematic and they're not budging anywhere, usually you can get to that tower without them even seeing you. So just keep that in mind. There's also an infinite carbine crate up here, and we're going to be utilizing that a lot, especially towards the end of this battle, and especially when the Warden himself shows up. Now, you may have noticed that the Arbiter is joining us in battle here. See, that's what I'm talking about with the crawlers. They sometimes just either a grenade launches them up here, or they fly up to get away from your allies. Either way, it does happen, so the crouch thing and trying to ignore them simply does not work. But in terms of the Arbiter, since I was talking about that, the Arbiter can help you out significantly here, especially when it comes to dealing with the soldiers. Now, of course, you can't guide the Arbiter to a target like you can your allies, but he does seem to prioritize targets based on what your allies are going after, so that's something to definitely keep in mind. As long as the Arbiter's in play, the soldiers usually fall pretty quickly, but a lot of times the Arbiter gets launched off a platform and into the sea, and so he ends up not being a factor anymore. So you need to keep that in mind. And he's still in play right now, but usually towards the end of the fight, he is no longer in play. So that can be a bit of an issue. So just keep that in mind. He is very useful. At the same time, he's a big target for grenade spam. So there's the infinite carbine crate right there. We're going to go ahead and jump on this platform because it doesn't seem to be getting a lot better, and I'm tired of seeing those crawlers constantly spawn in. And this location right here works on 2 levels. Not only does it stop the spawning of the crawlers, but at the same time, it gives you a place where you can sort of get a closer vantage point when it comes to the soldiers as well. So this can work either way. Typically, I don't like using this location for the soldiers because you're within grenade throwing range, I guess. But it's one way to actually get closer to them. Still, I prefer the other platform because it gives you a better vantage point. However, if you do go down right here in this area, your allies can help you. Once again, if you're in the opposite tower, the one where the carbine crate is, then they will not help you if you go down. So just keep that in mind. That's the main reason why whenever a crawler took me out, I wasn't able to do anything about it, because quite simply put, my allies wouldn't jump up there. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, one other thing that you can do to help speed this along is arm your allies with suppressors. That's certainly an option. You don't have to do that, but it's something that generally, as you'll see in the mission, the braking can help you out significantly. Now, when it comes to the soldiers, since we no longer have to worry about crawlers spawning in this area, you now have the perfect vantage point to start working on the soldiers themselves. One thing that you can do to down the soldiers a little bit faster is send your allies in to kill one, and if another soldier jumps up to try to attack your allies at close range, highlight that soldier instead, and your allies will typically Spartan dash him, or I'm trying to think of the right terminology there, super melee or whatever it is, and so you can take them down fairly easily. But once the crawler's out of the way, which they are now, you don't have to worry about them spawning in beside you, so you can focus completely on the soldiers right here and help your allies take them out. Do be careful, because they can chuck grenades up here. They can still shoot their light rifles at you. And also the soldier captains out over there can hit you with the turret as well, but they seem to be very reluctant at doing that. Maybe you're too far away, or maybe there's too much going on for them to focus on you, but I've noticed that from this vantage point, it's very rare that a soldier will actually start using his splinter turret on me. So again, we're just highlighting them right now. You want to make them your primary target, because our goal at this point is just to get the Warden to spawn. Okay, so one is down. Again, I think this is like the final, this is the second to last wave. I think the final wave is about to spawn in, and once it does, then we can start slowly taking these guys out and getting the Warden to spawn. Now, just a fair heads up, when the Warden does spawn in, he doesn't come in alone. He does have some Promethean allies, But most of those you don't have to worry about unless you plan on getting within punching distance of the Warden, which would be completely stupid and reckless. But the one that you do have to worry about is the Watcher. You want to make sure that you take him out first. Now, sometimes I've noticed the Watcher will simply wander away and never come back, but assume that it's not going to do that. Because if you don't take out the Watcher, he's going to continuously heal the Warden throughout the battle, and you'll never be able to beat the Warden, especially the way we're going to be doing it today. So again, we're waiting slowly. Paint one soldier at a time. You can pretty freely run back and forth to get this carbine ammo. I haven't been shot yet doing that. I think we're high up enough that we're out of range. Now, as you can see, they did throw a grenade up there, but it still takes them a little bit of time to do that. So you should be in pretty good shape overall. Definitely you still want to keep an eye out for the crawlers, though, because they can venture up here. If your allies do all go down, then don't do anything, because you don't want to draw any unnecessary attention to yourself. Now, again, this is one thing that you can use the caster for, is just launching them at launching different rounds at the soldiers, just lobbing them their way, and usually you can do at least some damage. Remember, the soldiers can't repair themselves. They don't have shields like elites. So that's one option, to sort of thin the herd, make them weaker, and make them easier for your allies to kill, if not yourself. So again, you're going to be spending a fair amount of the mission here. I'd say almost half the mission. I think speedrunners find this particular section extremely frustrating because they can have a perfect speed run, and once you get here, you're pretty much at the mercy of the game. You have to basically just down enemies as fast as you can, which is not really how speedrunning works. I do want to point out, since we're pretty much just mowing our way through the final mission at this point, one thing that you want to do for the last area, it is 100% optional to speed run that last area where we took the time. There were 2 waves. There was a Jackal Sniper and a Special Ops Elite. It's entirely possible to speed run that, but typically you can't, especially on Mythic when you don't have rechargeable shields, primarily because you'll have that second wave of grunts, those 3 grunts that approach on the far left side, and they'll usually take you out. I'm just saying it's possible. There are plenty of speed runs out there that showcase how you can do it, but it's not a viable option on Mythic. It's not that it can't be done, it's that there's a lot of RNG in it. And actually, there's a lot of RNG in this mission in particular. That's why it's taken me so long to actually get this one down. Unlike Blue Team, this mission is difficult in different ways. So Blue Team, one of the main problems there was not just how long the mission was or how many enemies you were fighting, but the fact that you had very limited ammunition. Here you have all the ammo you could possibly want, but the problem that you come across is that these areas are so big and irregular in shape, and you have so many enemies that you're going up against that can come at you from any angle, it's very easy to forget, hey, there might be one off to the side somewhere. So this mission does rival Blue Team as being the hardest one in the game, but still Blue Team comes out slightly ahead of it. As long as you do what I've shown you so far in this mission, you should be fine for the most part. There's only a few things that you need to be aware of. Yes, when you're doing that initial speed rush, skipping that first area, you can occasionally get tagged by a grunt, either by a needler or by a plasma grenade. It does happen sometimes. You'll get down by the plasma cannon when you're trying to speed run the Undercity. There are a few places in here where things can happen, but for the most part, they happen pretty early on. So fortunately, it's not that far into the mission. You can always start over. Really, this part was the one that I was most concerned about, because in this area right here, you're pretty much at the end, and I was having such a rough time dealing with those crawlers that kept spawning in. So not having to worry about them, as you can see at this point, gives you pretty much free roam of this entire back area. So you can take your time and deal with the soldiers one at a time. And of course, bit by bit, you can have your allies help you as well. Remember, when you're down to like 1 ally, though, I would not recommend getting them to do too much, because you want them around just in case you get accidentally grenaded or something like that, so you can be brought back. So just be aware of that. Now, as far as this lift right here is concerned, you can use that quite a bit. If a crawler does jump up here early on in the battle, you can easily just jump down. Not a problem. Once you're down on the ground, you shouldn't have too much to worry about because your allies can bring you back. But I have noticed in this area as well, sometimes your allies will wink out. Sometimes they'll just stop shooting. Sometimes they'll just stand in one place and not go anywhere. Again, this seems to be an issue with this mission in particular. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe there's just too many scripted events happening. but it's definitely a problem. So we're almost down at this point where, or we almost have all the soldiers down. It's just going to take a little bit more time. Now you can't afford to take like one hit from the light rifle right there, so just be aware of that. Now, since my allies are down, I want to be extra careful. So I'm going to go ahead and just use the crouch right here to gain more carbine ammo, and then we should be in pretty good shape. Right now, it's just a matter of waiting for the allies to respawn, take down a couple of more soldiers, and at that point, the Warden should be ready to spawn in. When the Warden spawns in, again, your top priority before you even focus on the Warden is to get rid of that Watcher. Don't worry about the Knights. He will spawn in with a couple of Knights, but they're not going to advance to this area right here. The perch that you're on is the perfect perch to dealing with the Warden Eternal. Now, you might be tempted to grab either the fuel rod guns or the incineration cannon from the opposite tower. Don't do it on Mythic Difficulty. That is a suicide mission. You don't want to do that. And it really wouldn't help you that much anyway. It's basically one of those things where, yeah, you might get him weak. You'll get him weaker. I'm trying to think of the appropriate term here. Break him. Each time you break him, it weakens him, which I guess makes sense. When I say break him, I mean he sort of, you see his slip space portal on his back sort of light up a little bit, and he screams or shouts or whatever. And I think you have to do that. I believe it's 5 times, even on Mythic, before he actually goes down. So since I'm just waiting for my allies to spawn in, I'm just seeing if there's anything I can take out without putting myself too much at risk over here. But I'm trying to be very careful as well. Alright, so there's not much left. Once all your allies spawn back in, go ahead and just target one of the soldiers. Again, you can do this yourself, believe it or not. Even though the carbine isn't that effective on them, as long as they're not really doing anything, and you're not in too much danger, you should be in pretty good shape. So I'm waiting for my health to recharge. It looks like we're on the final wave of enemies, so we should be in pretty good shape at this point. Alright, so another soldier's down. You can tell when you get that 58,500 number pop up, that means a soldier has bitten the bullet. So we're almost there. Another soldier's down for the count, so we should be in pretty good shape. We're almost there, almost there. Just a couple of soldiers left. Got to thin the herd just a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can just finish off this guy right here real quick. There we go. And let's see, are there any more? Yep, there's one more soldier right there. I don't want to get taken out because we're so close to getting the Warden to spawn in. And of course, once you down the Warden, all the other Prometheans in the area will disappear. So that soldier's definitely very grenade happy. Fortunately, so are my allies. So hopefully they can finish this guy off. And that soldier's down, so we should be getting to the Warden at this point. At which point you want to get your allies to retreat. Okay, so we're almost there.
Take that position.
So we should have just, what, one more soldier? I think it's just one more soldier. Maybe there's 2 more. Okay. And that should be enough. Basically just taking out anything that moves at this point, whatever it takes to trigger the Warden to spawn. Yes, this is very tedious, and I imagine most speedrunners are just kind of banging their heads against their desks at this point, trying to get through this area. Because there's just so much. Again, if you get a grenade chucked at you, just dash out of the way as quickly as possible. And it looks like, oh, one more wave, huh? Alright, well that's fine. If we're down to just the final wave here, that's okay. Not much to it. Just take these guys out as quickly as possible. It's just, they're soldier captains, so they can't shoot but that far. Except these guys seem to actually be looking at my location for a change. Usually they don't. So take these guys out as quickly as you can. And hopefully so this is the final wave right here before the Warden actually spawns. So there's 2 waves. Once you've downed enough Prometheans, both contain soldier captains. And I believe those are the guys that you need to focus on the most in order to get the Warden to spawn in. But it looks like we're doing pretty good so far. But again, when you need it, just remember, don't hesitate to run back and get more ammo from that infinite ammo crate. That's what it's there for. Okay, so I'm going to start looking at these guys bit by bit. We're just going to pick off the rest of them, and that should hopefully trigger the Warden Eternal to spawn in. Hopefully Halo 6 does not have any of these areas, or at least not as many of them. Okay, so we have 1 crawler. And let's see. There should be another captain down there if I'm not mistaken. Trying to find him. Well, there's 1 regular soldier down there. Okay, so let's see. Let me go ahead and paint him real quick. I should be able to do a fair amount of damage myself, though. Oh, and there's 1 captain over there. He should take top priority. He's far enough away that it shouldn't be able to do any damage to me. But we definitely want him taken out for the count. So I'm keeping an eye on those numbers to pop up, hoping... Okay, so that soldier miner's down. So it should be just this guy, and that should be it at this point. So I'm going to just keep going at it. I saw a few more grenades over there, so there still might be some more soldiers around. Oh, and there's the Warden, finally. Okay, so now we can finally end this mission. Go ahead at this point and make sure you've got full carbine ammo. And what you're going to do is you're going to hang back on this platform right here. And you're just going to shoot him in the head constantly. It takes a lot of ammunition to do it. But again, you have infinite ammo here, so you have nothing to worry about. There are 2 attacks that you need to worry about when it comes to the Warden. His face laser and his gravity bomb. We just saw the gravity bomb right there. The gravity bomb is fairly easy to avoid because you can see it coming in advance. Even though it does home in on your location, we do have a column here that can protect us. So I'm not overly worried about it. But his face laser, it takes a little less time for it to reach point A to point B. Fortunately, you can see his face start to glow before he fires it, so you do have an opportunity there. But we do want to handle this Watcher real quick before we get too far into it. If you start trying to hit the Warden now, the Watcher is just going to heal it. So it looks like the Watcher got taken out. So that being the case, I should be able just to go ahead and start shooting at the Warden. Make your allies back up just to be on the safe side. Oh, nope, there's still a Watcher there. Alright, so let's go ahead and take this guy out real quick. Unfortunately, when you're this far back with the carbine, it can be a bit of a problem. This would be a bit more effective if we had a light rifle in terms of dealing with the Watcher. Again, sometimes he'll just sort of wander away and you won't have to worry about him, but usually he sort of hangs around the Warden. So again, I just want to make sure my allies are back. I don't want them to get offed by the Warden. And more importantly, I don't want them to coerce the Warden into moving. Like right now, he's just standing on the platform. He's not going anywhere, which means I have a perfectly open shot with my carbine. And that's the way I want to keep it. So again, we just got to deal with the Watcher first. Where is it? Again, sometimes the Watcher will just disappear and do its own thing. We've seen it before with other enemies in this mission. So I'm going to go ahead and just refill real quick. Since he just used the gravity bomb, he's not going to use it again for at least a few seconds, so that gives us plenty of opportunity just to refill our ammo. So I'm not seeing the Watcher at this point. If it comes around again, we'll just switch priorities from the Warden back to the Watcher. Because if the Watcher's going to heal the Warden, it's got to stay in one place anyway, or at least roughly in the same place. But I don't see him. The Watcher's not coming back, so it's entirely possible the Watcher just wandered off somewhere. This being the case, now you just sit back and just start popping the Warden in the head, just like this. And again, it'll take several shots to cause him to break a little bit more. each time. And of course, with each break, you'll start to glow and get a little bit more fiery looking. And that basically means right there that you're almost done. So that's 2. All right, so usually every couple of them, I'll just go ahead and grab more ammo anyway. Try to avoid any sort of gravity bombs. Just peek out to see if it's coming any closer. But it looks like there's a little bit of scenery or building that's in the way. So if he's just going to stay right there the rest of the time, he might be completely shielded from his gravity bombs, which would be perfect. But again, whenever he starts launching him, what he'll do is he'll float up in the air. His sword will start spinning around into a circle to create them. And then it'll just slowly go to your location. Okay, so that's 3. Alright, so again, just back up if he starts moving around too much. Oh, another gravity bomb. Is it going to make it all the way up here? Yep, okay. Fortunately, we had that column in the way. So again, I know this isn't the most fascinating part of this, but it's the easiest way to deal with the Warden. You don't have to worry about anything up here. And of course, now that we've despawned the Watchers or deloaded them, you don't have to worry about them constantly attacking you. So you can put your full focus on the Warden right here. And that's exactly the way you want it. Alright, so it should be, how many more breaks? I think it's 2 more. I believe it's 2 more. I think it's 5 total. Alright, so that's 4 right there. Should be 1 more. It's either 1 or 2. I keep forgetting if he gets a massive health boost on Mythic, or if it takes more than just the standard number of breaks to actually destroy him completely or to get him back into slip space. Alright, looks like the soldiers are starting to get a little active too. That's okay, because our only focus right now is on the Warden. They're off screen, so I'm not worried about them at all. They can't see me. They're not going to teleport up here. It's just me and the Warden, and that's it. So we should be almost there at this point. And there he goes. That is Battle of Sunaion on Mythic Difficulty. So what did you think? Does this mission intimidate you at all? Are you eager to try it out? What part of this mission seems like it's going to be the toughest for you to get through? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, or feel free to hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant. A link to my Twitter feed can be found in the description below. And I want to thank each and every one of you for stopping by today and checking out my video. I hope it helps you on your own Mythic run. And if you did like this video, I hope you consider subscribing for more great content right here on MythicTyrant.com. Thanks so much for watching, guys and gals. I really do appreciate it. I'll catch you all right back here next time. And as always, I'm the Tyrant, signing off.